we're going to, obviously we're recording this, and today is October 25th, a Tuesday, and this is what would ordinarily be the recording day for FICTV. We're still recording FICTV, but today we're doing kind of a hybrid show to update everybody on what's going on with us as an organization, and also potentially to hear some additional stories that perhaps some of our followers out there are not aware of. We do have a newcomer to the fold here, David Kahn, who is from Brooklyn, New York, is with us. He is within the 5 boroughs, but no, he does not have Spectrum internet service. All right, and as always, Kit or Captain Cowan is with us from upstate Ulster, New York, and the deputy director, Jacob Kraniak, may or may not be with us at the moment, depending on his technical status. Right now, I believe he's in transit, and I believe that he'll be back again before we're done. Likewise, I'm waiting on Robert Boyle to also appear here, if for no other reason than to give us an update on the IRS determination letter, which is still pending, and we'll update everybody on that in a couple of minutes. Excuse me. So what I want to do is first put on my glasses. And we're going to talk first about some of the things that are going on within FIC on the whole. Organizationally speaking, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we did add David Kahn to the mix of things here. And my understanding is that, and he can tell you himself when he gets a moment to speak in a minute, that he will be helping us with things of marketing and perhaps social media and fundraising and grants. He comes to us with some experience in that area, in particular experience that the rest of us don't necessarily have, or at least not in the same amount that that David does. And for that reason, we're very glad to have him on board. And also, he's a genuinely nice guy. When you Thank you. All right, so let's start off. David, do you want to tell folks? We usually do this when somebody new comes on board. Yeah. Tell folks a little bit about yourself, and particularly, most people I think would be interested in the general struggles that you've had that brought you to us.
Yeah, well, so my name's David. I am a career organizer with 6 years of experience organizing. I also, in my free time, do a lot of community organizing. And I've worked on social justice issues, both at work and in my community, on environmental justice issues, fighting poverty, voter empowerment, fixing the MTA, etc. So a lot of different social justice issues, and to me this fits within it perfectly, because lower income neighborhoods are disproportionately affected by the lack of connections, and with that lack of privilege, doesn't help to uplift them. So that's kind of what brought me here. And, of course, have had in the past a lot of issues with getting customer support in terms of different internet providers. But yeah, that the social justice element is really what brought me here. Because if you look at the maps, the places that don't have reliable quality internet or internet at all are disproportionately placed in lower income neighborhoods.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. there's been a lot of cross discussion. There's been a lot of debate about exactly what constitutes decent internet speed. What have you been encountering there in the city, and what are your thoughts on the subject?
Personally, I'm very lucky, and I'm not encountering that personally. But I have been um, involved somewhat in New York City Mesh, and I realized that there are a lot of areas in Brooklyn that, and even in my area, that do have a lack of connections, reliability.
Okay, and where you are right now, meaning from a residential perspective, do you currently have more than one service provider where you are?
I have Verizon, and I believe Optimum is available as well.
Okay, and what kind of speeds do you generally end up with?
I have not measured. I'm relatively new to this area. I've not measured. I'm a sublether, so I've not measured the
Oh, okay,
speed. Yeah, it's really the social justice element of
Yeah,
this.
that's cool.
I gotcha.
Um,
So
Yeah.
you would agree then that at least I think you would that there are many areas both locally, statewide, and even nationally where even if they're not necessarily rural areas, but even in more urban areas, there are places that just don't have good, consistent, high quality or even decent quality internet connections.
Yeah, there are huge digital divides, and yeah, in terms of prices going up, uh, we, yeah, we, like because of these big monopolies not having any reason to lower the fees, uh, we definitely need to do something about that.
We had a thing the other day. They raised our prices. We only have Optimum up here.
Yeah.
And they raised our price. We know in October they usually do. So they raised it $10 and it was 58. It took us a year to get it down to 58 where it should have been. And so they raised it to 68. So immediately we called the retention department. And we got first lady kind of hung up on us, but the second guy really knew what he was talking about. Lowered it down. It was a lady. She took off, gave us, it ended up like 20 something dollars for next month, and then it'll go back to 48 for the next year,
Okay, well, that's one good encounter.
Yeah, good
I wish I
stuff.
could say that's the trend, but I
Yeah,
think we all know that it's not necessarily the trend on how the industry is going, and in particular,
right.
um,
But I
Optimum.
mentioned it because of the retention department, that's the key. So one of them, anyway.
Right? And for those people who are not 100% clear about what a retention department is, a retention department in general is the department that they transfer you to when they're trying to keep you as a customer
Mm-hmm.
of the company. Usually, when you call them to tell them that that their service is terrible, that how you're having problems with customer service, and you're ready to leave and migrate on to
Mm-hmm.
somewhere else, Verizon, et cetera. The goal of the retention department, generally speaking, is to keep people in the organization in the
Right.
company as a ratepayer.
Right.
Um,
And as a result, I got an email. I've gotten 2 emails saying, "Were you planning to leave? Is that why you contacted us?" So I haven't answered them.
right, and it goes without saying that the vast majority of the cable companies, satellite companies, you name it, they all pretty much do the same thing, which is they
Mm.
wait until you've been totally frustrated and totally annoyed to the point where you don't even want to talk to them, and then they try to get you back.
Yeah.
The case in point for that is on a daily basis now, I get something out in my mailbox personally, inviting me back to we know we haven't been doing well, but you need to come back to Optimum. I just got another one of those today. in my case, for those that have not heard on previous broadcasts, for those, excuse me, we no longer work with Optimum here. My internet service now is being run through fixed wireless over T-Mobile, and with that service, we're consistently getting between 200 and 300 down, and probably in the neighborhood of about 50 up. So it's a reasonable service, and it's also a darn sight less expensive than the others that are of comparable quality. And we'll be getting into in a few moments. So what I want to do is I want to talk about the newly created position that we have for David. We're going to be using his talents in terms of requesting grants and funding and social media. And I know that we've been talking about a number of different potential plans in that regard. We're going to kind of make an initiative to use something on the order of Constant Contact or MailChimp or one of those entities to maintain communication through a newsletter. We're going to do everything we can. Oh, I see that Jacob has returned to the fold. Just by way of introduction, the person that just popped up on your screen is Jacob Kraniak. He's the Deputy Director of FIC and our technical guru. And so we welcome him back. We're now talking about the role that David will be playing. So to the extent that folks have ideas, suggestions, concerns, I would encourage everybody to use his contact information. I do believe that David is now in our Slack. I do not know, and maybe Jacob can chime in on this. I don't know if he has an email address set up yet, but to the extent that we have him involved and ready to go, we invite everybody to send information. And as always, we're looking for people to come in and work with us on subscriber stories. We actually had a few people that were recently interested in that, and for one reason or another, due to a bunch of unfortunate events, we were unable to bring them on board. We had a number of technical issues, and we had some personal issues among the staff that made that rather difficult. But it is we're going to be getting back to that idea relatively soon. Likewise, there are going to be fundraising campaigns that we're going to start. By way of explaining what I started at the top of the show with, right now we are still waiting. I believe we're now in our 6 months or so of waiting for our IRS determination letter, granting us authorization to function as a 501c3 in a tax-exempt status. At the moment, we do have tax-exempt status, and we have nonprofit status within the state of New York. That is actually active on the charities and benefits website for the state of New York. Anybody who needs to check that out can certainly go to the New York State website and check everything out and make sure that that you have our proper information. We're also, right now, some of you may be aware of the fact that we have a Patreon account. Some of you I know are already donating, but to the extent that you're not, we will be also creating a GoFundMe account. And I believe, and David can correct me if I'm wrong about this, I think it's Indiegogo, India, something like that.
Yeah, it's Indiegogo.
Okay. So we're trying to make it easier for people to help out with these things. And once we get that 501c3 letter, tax deduction forms will be sent out by the treasurer, who is currently in the upper right-hand corner of my screen. That would be Kit. And so with that, I'm going to move on to the next thing. I wanted to invite everybody to check out either on our Slack or on the social media channels. We do have a bunch of things that are characterized as the latest news and general information that are out there. Between me and Jacob and others that are posting on there, there's an awful lot of resources on there, and anybody that's having an issue or a problem with something, you can probably find answers in that section. And to the extent that you can't, you can always write us. And if we don't know the answer, I'm sure we can find it relatively quickly. So with that, I'll move on to the next thing. For those of you who are in New York State, just an announcement, just so that everybody's aware that the New York State gubernatorial debate, the only one that there will be, starts at 7 o'clock this evening, and is available over Spectrum, which is also known as New York One, within the city of New York. No matter what you're going to do, if you're having these issues, these problems, listen to the candidates, see what they're saying, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Between me and the others that are involved, we have asked questions of many of the people that are either running for office or thinking about running for office, or in some cases formerly in office. We encourage everybody to get out there and make some noise, as it were. Whatever happens, no matter which way the election goes, we need somebody up there that will hear the cry of the ratepayer, which is voiced by all of us. Again, it's Spectrum, New York One, 7 o'clock tonight. I do not believe that there's going to be a secondary run. So if you're looking into that, I suggest that you either download the app or watch it locally.
I'll just want to chime in on that briefly. There is going to be, as far as I know, a website version. If you go onto the Spectrum One website, there is a place you'll be able to get to it from there.
Okay, I stand corrected. But that's a good correction. The fact that people will have the chance to see that after the fact, can only work in everybody's favor. So I want to take a few minutes to update everybody on the fight to bring new internet service providers. Usually we have an update on OCG. Which is one of the companies that is looking to build out here on Long Island, not all that far from where Jacob and I reside, in Suffolk County and perhaps beyond. As usual, there are still some sticking points. At this point, we're not 100% sure whether the actual problem is with the politics, or whether it's with the law department, or whether it's some combination of all of these things. But they're physically, the OCG company has actually created quite a bit of infrastructure in the area, so it is actually available. It's just a matter of either going through or going around the political process to the extent that we have to. Likewise, excuse me. From a government or private perspective, it probably also makes sense for us, to the extent that we can, to deliver or encourage other companies to come out this way. Hopefully with the promise that they can either go around various regulations or regulatory problems, or at a minimum that they can use free market resolution techniques in order to get their businesses up and running, in order to compete against the bigger providers, commonly known as Verizon and or Optimum and some of the other bigger companies. Right now, there is kind of a synergy that's out there wherein the larger companies are starting to gobble up the smaller companies. Not all that different than what's happening in the medical field and in the banking field. The smaller entities are being gobbled up by the larger entities, and they're just expanding until there's literally just a few larger providers that are competing against each other. And when that happens, yeah, for those who are probably wondering exactly what I've been wondering all along, which is where is the FTC and the rest of the regulatory agencies with regard to antitrust? The answer is they're nowhere to be found, because I don't think that there's a question in anybody's mind, and if there is, feel free to write a rebuttal. But if there's anybody out there that believes that that we're not necessarily getting full competition within the arena, I'd love to hear what the actual thoughts of the folks are with regard to that. Moving on, I know that one of the other companies that we tend to hear from periodically, networks, and they are rolling out more infrastructure, and I believe they're still building out in various areas of New Jersey. So to the extent that my voice is reaching New Jersey right now, if you're out there, look them up, and you should be able to get a little bit more competition in the areas that they're serving. And so with that, I'm going to stop here for a minute. Jacob, you have something that you want to add to the fold?
Yeah, something I just wanted to briefly touch on. Everyone knows that we started in the Northeast US. That's the area that Frank and I are from. Kit is up in the Hudson Valley. David here is from Brooklyn. So this is the area that we're most familiar with. But as we grow as an organization, we do want to make sure we're addressing the issues for broadband competition all over the country. We don't want to be limited to just this one area. To that effect, I don't even know if I've told Frank this, I've started collecting information about some smaller regional providers in other parts of the country. Now, that's not ready for release yet, but down the road, I plan on hopefully expanding our website and including resources for these providers in other parts of the country.
Okay, and do you have a projected timeline for that? Is that something in the near future, something a month off?
Let's say before the end of next year.
Okay. Now, I want to double back to what we were talking about a little while ago. Areas that are impacted by folks that don't necessarily have the financial wherewithal to afford the typical ratepayer fees. The amount that's required in order to just bring rudimentary internet into an area or into a home. There is, for those that are not familiar, there are government programs out there now that are designed to, at least in theory, to help with the funding for those people that are either underfunded or simply don't have the money in order to be able to provide, in order to be able to obtain services that they might need. This became very evident during the whole COVID crisis when folks were at home and everybody was fighting over airtime for COVID, for cable. And so to that extent, I would invite people to go to the government website. I believe it's the ACP. Is that right? That's the ACP website. Okay, shaking his or nodding. Yeah, nodding.
Yeah, I believe it's affordable. I'll have to confirm. I believe it's affordableconnectivity.gov.
And also go to I'm not sure if this is the one you're talking about, but there's also a broadband.newyork.gov, and you can find affordable internet providers there.
Right. Yeah. That is a resource that they put out recently.
Yeah,
The only caveat with that is that
all the big ones. It's none of the
it's
small
all the
ones.
big providers that
Yeah,
agreed to abide by the ACP. So
right.
it's not really, we're not going to advocate for that because
Yeah,
our whole thing is not sending people to big providers. But
right.
if you are stuck with them, you can go to through the federal resources and get a discount. As a matter of fact, if that New York list, we should really be trying to get other options on that list. So Optimum isn't the only one that shows up.
Yeah, well, they're all supposed to be participating in that to one extent or another. So I don't know why Optimum seems to have the lock on that, but we can certainly find out.
Yeah, it's all broadband funding.
Yeah.
All the federal infrastructure money. If you follow that back to state grants, you'll see that like hundreds of millions are going to these incumbent providers with little to nothing going to the regional options. Some of the money, even like HughesNet or Viasat, which are legacy, very slow data capped satellite providers, are still getting hundreds of thousands of government funding. So that's something that needs to be, we really need to attack. Is why can't the OCGs and the Planet networks get some of that grant money?
A very good question. Maybe a question somebody should ask on the air tonight at the debate. So with that, there have been several town halls. In particular, New York 1 or New York Congressional District 1. They had a town hall, a few open houses and everything, and I do actually log in and participate in those. And every single time I have logged in and spoke to a call processor, given them my question and the follow-up questions and everything, and not a once has my question ever made it to air. I don't know why that is, unless maybe it's because there's no answer that's not going to land them in hot water with some constituents. I want to backtrack to what we were talking about a little while ago towards the top of the show. As I mentioned, David's coming to us brand new, and he's bringing some very specialized talents to the fold here. And so what I want to do, we already spoke before about the expectations that we have. What I'd like to do now is to what David thinks about other things that perhaps we should contemplate bringing to the table. We spoke about MailChimp, we spoke about some other things. What do you have on your mind going forward?
Yeah, so I would like to be a sort of communication strategist to the team. I would like to bring my 6 years of organizing experience in fundraising and communications involving social media, and I've written press releases. I've created social media posts, email blasts, mass text sending with different programs. And I believe that I can create messages that are not only tailored to one generation or one certain group of people with a certain background, but to all, because everyone is affected by poor internet quality and lack of internet.
That reminds me, I want to stop you to ask you a question, because I know we touched on this previously, but I think it's something that folks out there might like to hear about. We spoke briefly about the misconception that I and others have about who exactly is affected by this lack of competition in the industry. And you pointed out correctly, I might add, that it is not only folks that are, say, Gen Xers or senior citizens or folks that might be baby boomers, but there is also, as you stated, a nexus between younger generations and how they use their internet and the resources that they have. Can you address that briefly? You know, what is your take on the on how the younger crowd of people might be affected by this?
Yeah, so I know that the friends I have and the connections and colleagues I have in Brooklyn and Manhattan, in my age group, in their 20s and 30s, have do pay for internet. Usually, it's split between roommates, um, but they're just as likely to be affected by price. Um, and especially in Brooklyn right now, it's the price of um, internet, but also rent is being increased like 60%. So with that and the internet, it's a lot, and it's unaffordable. Um, and so yeah, young people are really just as affected as older generations.
Okay, so again, as I said a few moments ago, there are times when different people will have a different perspective, and you know, we've spent quite a bit of time talking about what's happening with older generations, but we now know that there's more going on than just what we were thinking. And so, to the extent that any of the younger Generation Z folks or beyond might be listening or watching, you too should be reaching out to us. We definitely could use a footprint and some folks to distribute flyers and things along those lines in college towns and other places that are probably more frequented by younger folks. So yeah, to the extent that you guys might want to help us with that, feel free to reach out to us. And you know, if there are any other ideas about strategies for communicating, we have David here. Actually, Jacob, question: do we have an email address set up for David? I know that
right at the moment, we have David on as more of a consultant role. We haven't set him up as a staff member, but you can easily find him on the Slack. He's on there, and I believe his personal email address is posted on his profile there.
Okay, gotcha. And for those of you who have heard me and others reference Slack a billion times during this broadcast, you should know that at the moment we don't have the ability to invite additional folks to our Slack. So what we would ask you to do is to look at look for our information for Slack and request to join us, at least for now, until we get the ability to do invitations and
the way you find that, just briefly, I'll mention all you need to do to find that information is go onto our website, fairinternetcoalition.org, and then there's a button at the top that says social media. Click that, and it'll take you to a page with jump links to all of our social accounts, and Slack is on there. You'll be able to click that, and you'll be able to set up an account and join us there.
Right, and also a segue. Jacob just kind of gave me a segue into website design. We're also going to be looking at potentially making not changes to content so much as the actual web design itself within the organization. And So to the extent that anybody has some ideas about that, or just even some general thoughts about the things that you like and the things that you don't like within our website, we certainly would like to hear from you. And so with that, the only person that we haven't heard from, generally speaking, is Kit. Kit, anything happening up in your neck of the woods?
Same old, same old. Yeah, like I said, I told you that story. I had a little success, but October's the month when they raise the prices. So, and you go to the retention department if you have that happen. Yeah, go ahead.
The yearly tradition for that's the yearly tradition for Optimum subscribers is your yearly call to get your bill lowered.
Yep. Yeah. And they think that you're going to leave them, but so anyway, we don't have a choice, but they don't know that, I guess.
Well, I'm sure at some level they do. They're just very coy about it.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you'll find in areas, I'll just mention this, you'll find in areas where there is competition, say if there was Verizon and Optimum available, Optimum prices their plans lower. And then if Optimum is in a monopoly area, they price their plans higher.
Of course. Yeah. So I want to learn how we're going to upgrade the website for donations. That's what I want.
So I've been exploring something called Stripe. I've actually kind of modeled it off of how New York City Mesh set up their website. And there's a very simple, enter your, choose how much you want to donate, whether it's one time or monthly, and then enter whatever credit card you want to use. And then that would come straight to us. Now we can't, again, like many other things, do that without the termination letter, but that is on my list of things to set up for us.
Set up very soon. Yeah.
Massive list it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And really our donations are only right now for the work that we do. It's we're not asking for huge donations. We're asking for anything you can spare to help us afford some of these sites that we want to use to help organize.
Yeah. And even something like Patreon, it doesn't have to be a lot, but consistent donations, $1 a month, it still helps us.
That's right.
That adds up.
Those things where it's like you're rounding up, like everything you buy, you round up a couple of cents, and then you add it all up, and it can be
there's a program, an app or program or whatever that a lot of companies are using. I read about it recently.
Is that Acorns?
No, it's called Upchange or something like that.
Acorns does do that, but it invests the money in it.
That's an investment thing. Okay.
Yeah.
The thing I'm talking about, I know that that Burger King and Taco Bell and Home Depot are examples of companies that are running promotions with that now. What happens is when you go into your Home Depot and you buy some whatever, if the bill comes out to $14.50, the next thing you hear out of the cashier's mouth or out of the computer's mouth, as the case may be, is would you like to round up to the nearest dollar and donate that to blah blah blah. There is a program out there. I don't know how to access it. I know it's called Upchange,
Right.
but I don't know where to find it or what the requirements are for it.
We can look into it. The only limitation I could possibly foresee with that is that we would need buy-in from vendors that are willing to list us as a donation site, because we can set it up, but then other places where people buy products would have to choose, I want to have my donations going to FIC versus some other charity.
Right. Well, there's one thing I could think of right off that would make sense for that. What if we reached out to our friends at Planet and Flume and OCG, to the extent that their bill on a monthly basis is $40.57, so they add they check a box to add to round up to the next dollar and donate to FIC.
Okay, that's definitely worth exploring.
I just as you were saying that, it popped into my head because I've been seeing it in certain places, and I read an article about it on the Wall Street Journal the other day. But I don't know how to contact them.
Right. So yeah, I will look into that and see if I can find more information on it. Kind of tangential to that I wanted to address that is kind of on my radar. Something I want to look into is the idea of expanding our well, not the market reach, I would say, but remember I discussed with you, Frank, like an affiliate program, like
Right.
a partner.
As a matter of fact,
having,
I don't want to cut in, but before I forget to mention it, after that conversation that we had, I did start writing. I started two things. One is an affiliate program, kind of a wish list of what that would look like. So I think that there's actually a company called New York Improv, which does defensive driving courses, and they actually have a program that I would like to model hours on. And so I put a phone call in. It just so happens I know somebody there from my Allstate days, and I'm attempting to get a little bit more of a drill down as to how they set up. But essentially, what you have to do is first thing you have to do is you have to create definitions. So definition of a member, the definition of a sponsor, the definition of a corporate corporate donator, whatever the case may be. And so one of the things that we should take up in the next board meeting is kind of classifying all of these things so that I can write what they are in terms of definitions, so that it's very clear about how each of these things function with each other.
Right. Like on the simplest level, something like a supporter could just be anyone who is just willing to say that they support what we do, whether it's the Flumes or OCGs or Planets. We would each have a section on our corresponding websites. On our website, we would say proudly supported by, and then have a list of companies that support us. And then on their end, they would have a section that would say proud supporter of FIC, and then those would link to each other. And like you said, we could have different tiers of that. We could just have at no cost, other than them saying that they agree with our mission, would be a supporter. And then higher up, if they want to be like a gold tier supporter or a silver, they could donate some money to us and get higher recognition, I guess.
The last time we got together, Jacob, you were talking about getting together with David and discussing some of his ideas. Have you guys figured out how to do that? When?
I mean, I've been pretty busy with school, but David, if you have some time, you want to just bounce ideas off of each other, we can schedule some time to talk.
Yeah, that would be great. Don't worry, I've been pretty busy myself. One question I wanted to ask: have you looked into, like, Google has a nonprofit program for Google Ads that I think they give you like $1,000 in credit a month or something for using towards advertisements on Google.
Yeah, well, I mean, once we get the determination letter,
Right.
one of the first things on my list will be well, first is Google Workspace, but that can be, once I have that done, then we could do that right after.
Right.
On the same subject, I should point out, in case, David, you want to use them at any point in time, I, for whatever reason, I've been getting credit vouchers for Facebook. Anything from $40 to $50, etc. I don't know, if you see some kind of a benefit to using that. I can certainly send them your way. I can email you whatever.
I would be careful on Facebook. There's a lot of scamming going on.
Well, this is directly from Facebook. This is not different entities.
Also, to be honest, I'm not actually sure how much like an ad typically costs on Facebook. So it might be like $40 for like $100 campaign. Like you might end up spending a lot more than you wanted to.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying, we should look into it. I'm not saying we should commit to anything.
Sure. Yeah.
It certainly makes sense to find out and report back. So.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I think we're coming up on the hour. Was there anything else we wanted to talk about?
I don't think so.
Can I add something that to speak to the audience? Basically, just wanted to say that if you, to the extent that someone is watching here who belongs in a tenants union in New York City or a block association, I think those are like the best places, especially in like Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, to really make an impact. I've seen these tenants unions do so much, in terms of fighting for the rights of New Yorkers. So
I
if
just
anyone's
noticed
there, if
I
anyone,
just noticed that David forgot Staten Island. Staten Island, we love you too. You're one of the 5 boroughs.
Love you too, but I've lived everywhere else except Staten Island.
Okay. Anything else, David?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
To the extent anyone's watching who is in a tenants union, active in a tenants union, or knows someone who is, or a block association, please reach out, and maybe we can help move the cause forward.
Yeah, good.
And I guess to wrap things up, thank you, David, for sharing that. That's really useful information. The last thing I would do is our usual call to action. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever social media platform you have. Subscribe to us on YouTube so you can always get these video updates that we put out. Our newsletter, blog, just sign up on our website. You can put your email address in there. And finally, make sure to complete our survey. That's like one of the most important resources that we have is information. And that's not just Optimum. We have surveys now for Verizon, Spectrum, Comcast, and Cox for our friends down south. So any one of those, the more data that we have, the better we can show regulators and legislators that this is where the problem is. These are your constituents that are filling these out. So that will really help us.
All right. With that, we'll break here. It's now 6:25 East Coast time. And take care, everybody, until next month.
Yep. Good to see you guys.
Yeah.